Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today I'm responding specifically to a comment that was made, but more generally to the misunderstanding of what's actually happening when we say certain things. So I'm gonna put the comment up here and read it to you also. It's obvious there's an agenda. You can't label everything as homophobic. I have no problem with people being LGBTQ, but children are off limits. Their minds are still forming and don't need to be confused. Let them develop and see what happens later. Again, whatever you do when you get older and have a mature mind, more power to you, but leave the kids alone. There's a couple things going on here, and let's just go ahead and pick this apart to start. Is it obvious there's an agenda here? Yes, I have an agenda. I will tell anyone who asks, I have an agenda. My agenda is that people get to live their lives the way that they want to live their lives, and other people who have opinions on it keep it to themselves. It is not appropriate for people to take their religious beliefs, their theology, their, misconception of what human nature actually is, and place those expectations on other people and simultaneously get upset at other people shoving things in their face. This second sentence encompasses a lot of what I see as the problem. You can't label everything as homophobic. First of all, you can't say you can't to someone in an educated conversation and not give any reasons why you can't. Why can't I? Why can't I label things as homophobic? What's the problem here? Why can't I? And I'll tell you what, I can label things that are homophobic as homophobic, which is this entire comment. Now, giving the commenter the benefit of the doubt, maybe they don't actually understand what they are saying and how problematic it is. I truly want to believe that most of our nation that says these kind of things do not actually understand what they are saying to people when they say it. I'm running out of steam sometimes with some people and think maybe they actually do mean the harm that they're causing, but maybe they don't. And hopefully, maybe someone watching this video doesn't realize it and has an epiphany. The comment starts off with a lie.
I have no problem with people being LGBTQ.
That's not true. You absolutely do. What this commenter is saying, or what anyone is saying when they say that,
I have no problem with someone being gay.
I have no problem with someone being lesbian.
I have no problem with this.
I have no problem with someone being trans.
if there's any but, that negates the statement. In this particular comment, but kids are off limits part, ask yourself why kids are off limits. Why is that a problem? Why is kids being queer a problem? Now, most responses you'll get from that are
Because kids are just kids and they should be allowed to grow up and they should be allowed to be who they are and be children and not have to deal with adult things.
the only way that being part of the LGBTQIA plus community is an adult thing is if you are equating it to sex, because children shouldn't be having sex. Well, I think we can all get behind that one. The idea that kids are young and free and unencumbered means that you think identifying within this community is something that is not young and not free and encumbered. You can't have it any other way. That is what you are saying when you say these things. You are broadcasting to everyone that you do in fact think there is something wrong with being queer. But you know you can't say that to an adult, and you know you can't put that on an adult or tell them they shouldn't be because people can live their own lives. But you believe that it's a choice and you believe that it's the wrong one. And so kids who are innocent and free and whatever else shouldn't be introduced to these things. In every facet of children's lives, we bring up things about marriage, about family, about relationships. When kids are kindergartners, we see a boy and a girl playing and we're like, oh, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. Kids don't come up with those words on their own. We are not born with language, we are given language. Therefore, the language a child is using is given to them by an adult. So if a kid is calling somebody their boyfriend, they heard that somewhere. Their parents, from a friend who heard it from their parents, it doesn't matter. You cannot keep these things away from kids because they are natural ways that people exist. They are identities that people have. And to assume that you keep that away from children because they're innocent and their brains are still being formed means you think it can warp their brains. I'd rather if you thought that way, you just went ahead and say it. I mean, you'd be wrong. Science does not back that up. The popular opinion does not back that up. History does not back that up. But at least you'd be honest. Then we could have a conversation, or I would just know to avoid you. That'd be fine too. The idea of see what happens later, this idea that in the state of Florida, we say K through 3, you can't talk to them about sexuality or orientation. And even after that, it needs to be age appropriate. No one is arguing that. But I think we have different opinions on what's age appropriate. Consent should be taught from childhood, understanding that your body is your own, and I don't know, force children to hug relatives they only see once a year. That's telling them that they don't have autonomy of their bodies. If we start this kind of stuff at a very early age, if we say whoever you're going to date when we're talking about dating, instead of to girls saying when you get a boyfriend or boys saying when you get a girlfriend, we say when you start to date. Just changing those simple things helps people to understand that however they are and whoever they are is okay. But this comment, and many like it, do not want people to be who they are, and they don't want people to be okay. Currently, there's a story out there about a governor of a state who is attempting to get a club shut down because they found out that a parent had their child with a drag queen. Let's break this down for a minute. We talk about parent rights, and this particular governor talks a lot about parent rights. If a parent sees fit to take their child to a drag queen story hour or to a public event where there are people dressed in drag, that is that parent's right. Is it not? Now, if you're going to say that's not a parent's right because you feel like there's something inherently wrong with it, we'll get to that in a minute. We have statistics, scientific research, and actual personal accounts of how damaging it is to children for parents to deny the child being who they are. That's pronouns, that's identity, that's attraction levels. It is actually proven to be damaging to deny that in a child. And yet we're not allowed to tell parents you can't do that because parental rights. If that's the case, then something that we have no science to back up and no actual anything except
it makes me feel icky.
You can't impose your beliefs on someone based on whether or not it makes you feel icky. You can't tell a parent they can't have their child in front of someone dressed in drag.
Because it's wrong.
Well, why? Why is it wrong? The only answers that come from the people who say this are,
it's just wrong.
Kids shouldn't be sexualized.
If it is impossible for you to understand that someone's identity does not equal sex, there's something going on for you. Has it not occurred to anybody that seeing a man dressed in female type garments and wearing makeup, therefore presenting as female in some form or fashion, if you can't separate that from sex, are you now willing to admit how much you sexualize women? Is it okay now for us to talk about the fact that you cannot see a woman without sexualizing her? Clearly, because you can't see a man dressed as a woman without sexualizing him. The problem with anything written for parental rights right now is that it's not actually for parental rights. It's for parents who believe the same thing as the lawmaker putting it forward. And if you don't, then you must not have rights. That's not how rights work. Parents who are queer do not have to earn rights to their children, although some states are set up like that. The bigger problem with parent right laws right now is that it does nothing to protect the child. And we'll say that it does, and it's for the children, and if it was really in the best interest of the child, if the child's rights or protection was even considered anywhere in this, it would not be mandated for schools and school officials to out kids to their parents. When a kid comes to an adult who's a safe person in their life to talk through their thoughts and feelings, these same people passing these bills want school officials to immediately, absolutely, no questions asked, call the parent and tell them. What do you think that does to the kid? Even if the parent is like, great, I'm so glad you told me. That moment of fear, that moment of being in trouble, of having another adult call your home because of something you said to them, that sticks with you. That grows into a distrust of authority, a distrust of people. It's the wrong way to do it. And the people insisting we do this are people like this commenter, who are saying, leave children alone. Kids are off limits. No one's trying to harm kids here. I would submit that those people trying to shield kids completely from the idea that anyone is anything other than cisgender and heterosexual are the ones damaging kids. I want to say something about this word that's being used constantly in very inappropriate ways. There's an entire group of people out there right now that thinks that it's totally fine to be using the term groomer. Here's why that's not fine. There are lots of people in our country today who have actively been groomed during childhood as a young adult by a predator. When you throw the term groomer at someone who is doing something that you kind of don't like, you are taking from these people the validity and the seriousness of what has happened to them. The other level of this is that the vast majority of groomers come from the church, and then church people turn around and call queer people groomers when they are around kids. The deflection goes so far beyond ironic. There is no sense of awareness and no sense of anyone else. There's no thought given to people who have been groomed. There is no warning to people who have had this happen in their lives that just maybe don't need to see that word out there all the time in headlines thrown out there by people from a certain political party. So they took a word that those in the church have been so guilty, more guilty than anyone else in the world of doing. They took that word and applied it to the people they see as their enemies in the first place. It's a win-win for them, right? And the rest of us hurt for it. As you can see, these kind of comments really fire me up because I care about individuals. I care about people. And society itself is not currently caring for people. The only way that changes is by educating and conversation. And things like this comment is not conversational. It was, this is the way it is. There's no room for interaction. There's no room for talking about it. This is what it is. If that's all you want to say and you don't want to have a conversation about, then at least back up what you're saying. Show me statistics. Show me studies. Show me things reputable, peer-reviewed, educational pieces that stand for what you stand for. Because you know what? They're pretty hard to find. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Join us again next week. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.